Here's another one for you then, Craig. Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund's history. We've got it all time here, and of course we'll cast our eyes back to that 2024 Champions League final when Real Madrid beat Borussia Dortmund. They will be facing each other again here in the quarterfinals. It's a perfect chance though, Stuart, to ask what you have made of Real Madrid under Xabi Alonso so far, from what you've seen of them.
Well, I didn't see the early game. I saw the last one. And they went back to, or reverted back to how Xabi Alonso always played at Bayer Leverkusen, particularly in the first season when they went undefeated, which was with a back three. And he played with two holding midfielders. Strangely, Güler was one of them, alongside Valverde, and it left Bellingham playing as the furthest forward of the midfield players. And they almost played with two up front, although Vinny Jr. sort of at times went out towards the left-hand side. He was up front with Gonzalo Garcia. And he played with two wing-backs, Alexander Arnold, who I think suited to playing as a right wing-back, and then Fran Garcia down the left-hand side. So I think we can see more. I think we're going to see more of this from Xabi Alonso, because that's what I saw at Bayer Leverkusen. And most managers have a philosophy about the way they want to play, and I think that's going to be the case with Xabi Alonso. He's got the players to play that system, although he may be a centre-half short at the moment. Tchouameni playing as a centre-half. Because he knows the system and he knows the pitfalls and the strengths of it.
He's got the players to play it. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, Robert talked about early in the competition that he didn't catch. I actually did. I haven't caught many like Robert. Was it Al Hilal they played? I think it was early in the competition. And they were very sluggish in that game. It was very... And I think Thibaut Courtois touched on it, saying like... And it was quite derogatory in a sense to Ancelotti, saying it was going to take us a bit of time to get out of the Ancelotti way of playing. But the Ancelotti way of playing was really successful for him. Unfortunately, it fell flat in the last season when he couldn't. And I think this is going to be Alonso's big problem, and whether it's a change of shape or not, is Ancelotti in that final 12 months must have banged his head every night in his bedroom wall thinking, what's the right balance for this team? What's the right personnel? And I know he had injuries, but everybody has injuries. What's the right formula to get the best out of this particular squad of players? And he struggled. He struggled from match day one in I think it was Las Palmas last year. And it was the odd sort of peak, but there was a lot of that. And then there was a lot of flatness. And I think, and that, on top of the problems he had with having to give Vinicius Jr. a kick up the backside, amongst one or two others, and that's going to be all of Alonso's problems. I think we'll get another picture of it maybe in these games, but also in pre-season, which we're not at yet. I mean, we have to finish this competition. Players will have a rest of some sort. Then there'll be pre-season. I think that will give Alonso time to reflect on what he's seen in this competition. So, in some sense for him, even though I'm not a believer at all in this tournament, and I've made that clear, in some sense for him, being a new manager, at a club with so much pressure, if they don't get too many injuries through all these games, it could be beneficial for him to get more of a look at his players before the pre-season starts and then the league season starts, because he's getting to understand them more. Whereas the likes of Luis Enrique and Vincent Kompany and all the others, they know what they've got. Xabi Alonso's looking at his players and thinking, right, I've got this tournament, then I've got a rest to go away and think about it and come back and formulate the best system.
Do you think he needs to know more about the players, their technical ability or their characters? Because that was one of the things that I was shocked about last year, the character of some of the Real Madrid players.
I think his biggest concern... Well, in my opinion, it's twofold. I think there's definitely a problem there in terms of the system they played last year, and I know you weren't particularly impressed with Bellingham last year, and I get that. How do you get a better Bellingham? How do you get a better Vinicius? How do you get a better Mbappe in terms of performances? His numbers were good, but his performances weren't always great. How do you manage to negate the fact that Kroos is gone and was gone a year and Modric is going and all this sort of stuff? How do you get that balance right? But you're spot on. One of the biggest jobs he has, and as you know because you've coached, of any manager is walking in and going, what does he need? What does he need? How do you deal with him?
Quite often, the hardest players to deal with are the biggest players. The ones that are your main players. The ones that are your creative players. The ones that can go and win your games. They're the ones that want to do what they want to do. And sometimes, if you're working on it as a team shape, and this is what we want to do, and Xabi Alonso, I think, is a lot stronger manager, or he'll demand certain things from his players, which Ancelotti probably didn't. Ancelotti was more laissez-faire, let the players deal with it and all that sort of stuff. But going back to your point about Bellingham, or my point about Bellingham last season, when we're talking about playing with a back three and possibly Alexander-Arnold playing as a right wing-back, they're the ideal combination. If he plays with two holding midfield players and Bellingham sitting in front, if there's one player that would love balls coming into the box from Alexander-Arnold, which that's his strength, it will be Jude Bellingham. So maybe he can get back to the form we saw in the first season.
But if there ever was a manager for just understanding and getting the best out of players without over-coaching, for the most part it was Ancelotti.
Absolutely.
Yeah, correct.
Because I'm not saying like a father figure in a sense, and he did, tell me a time he threw his players under the bus. Really under the bus. I mean, he brought up the fact that he had to tell Vinicius Junior to start running and he was coming off. But he rarely ever just slung his players under the bus. He always sort of protected them. He generally got it right. Last year he did not. At Bayern Munich he did not. If you think back, our ex-colleague Ralf Honigstein touched on it at the time that when he got sacked at Bayern, it was because the hierarchy and even the players thought it was too lax.
Yeah.
Where he thought he was just letting the players get on with it, and then it became a little bit of a shambles. So there is a balance there, and it's whether or not some of these big superstars who will look up to Xabi Alonso as a player, and I suppose for what he did at Leverkusen, but he's still in his infancy as a coach, and will they treat him with some disrespect when the proverbial hits the fan, as it usually does?
Well, and that's where I think if you read between what Courtois said and the big difference between, you have the guy that kind of was like, hey, let's find a way to get this done. And now you're going to have somebody new coming in and saying, hey, you know how you kind of walked around here a little bit? No, you need to press, and you need to step here, and you need to cover in here, and you do that. And say, well, wait a minute. I've just spent a couple years where I got to kind of do what I wanted as long as the results came. So yeah, it's how much Xabi Alonso is given to change what needs to be changed, and how much above him says, hey, you can do this, but don't upset this guy too much, because
he's got to be brave. He's going to have to be brave at times, and if Vinicius Junior is not playing well and not running around, right, off you come. Yeah. And Vinicius Junior has to react one way or the other, and if he reacts in a bad way, then Xabi Alonso's got a problem. If he reacts in a good way, he's done his job.
Right.
It's going to be a difficult time for him.
But he is. But you saw Leverkusen. You saw a lot of Leverkusen. He is a horses for courses manager. Well, he certainly has been. If you look back at his team selections last year, he did alter things when Florian Wirtz was not available.
Yeah.
When Wirtz was not available, he didn't just say, all right, I'll put somebody else in there and we'll play the same way. He quite often went to like 5 in midfield, and he had 3 at the back, or sometimes he'd even go 4 at the back and change the midfield because Florian Wirtz was injured or suspended. So he has made changes.
Does that mean we're not going to see Vinicius Junior and Mbappe play? Because he did that on several occasions. He never played with a centre forward. Remember the game? There was a big game. There was a massive
Bayern
game.
Munich.
Bayern Munich.
And they had all
they needed to win.
And they had all the possession.
Yeah, they had all the possession. He didn't have a centre forward on
Didn't he have Patrick Schick on the bench?
Yeah, he brought him on in like the dying minute.
Boniface and Patrick Schick, he waited till the 92nd minute to bring on Patrick Schick.
But the point is, like, and Wirtz is a brilliant player. Obviously, he's made this big move, but he kind of built everything around Florian Wirtz. Is he going to try and do that at Bayern, at Real Madrid with? Let's be honest, Mbappe's the big star there.
He is the big star.
Is he going to try?
But obviously, at the start of this competition, Mbappe's been sick, Frank, and so we've seen a breakout star in Gonzalo Garcia, which must be very nice for Xabi Alonso.
As Craig said, Mbappe has the numbers for him. But the involvement of Garcia was exactly what we are looking for from Mbappe, and that was lacking last season. So of course, Xabi Alonso will give the chance to Mbappe to start and to show his strengths. And if he keeps on scoring, he's going to play. And Gonzalo Garcia is going to be either on the bench or maybe at Chelsea. We never know. But the thing is, Mbappe will finally need somebody above him, meaning the coach, the boss, to tell him the truth of what he wants. And if he doesn't get what he wants, get out. That's what's going to happen to him. It's going to happen to Vinicius Junior and maybe to Jude Bellingham. And I would say finally, because that's what we are looking for. We want players involved because Real Madrid is a big club and last season wasn't enough. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works. And if Mbappe doesn't do the job, yeah, they have Gonzalo Garcia. So, and he has proven that he's ready. It's going to be too big for the moment to be the striker of Real Madrid. But I think the guys can be a good future.
Okay, there you go. Make sure to keep up to date with everything that's going on with Real Madrid and in the Club World Cup right here on ESPN FC. Frank, thank you so much for being with us. We'll speak to you again very soon.